the elements of success. It starts with P plus T. That's passion plus talent. And that's all about you. Passion, love what you do what you love. And then times A, power of association. And that is who's on your team. Do you have a mentor who's opening doors for you? Do you have people on your team who are strong where you are weak? And then times A, taking action. How many times do we know what we're supposed to do? We just don't do it. So taking action. And then plus F, faith. Faith in yourself, faith in what you're doing, faith that it's needed and necessary, and faith that you will succeed. That's where that self-confidence comes from. And so that's P plus T times A plus faith. And most of us, that F is fear, not faith. And that fear holds us back from creating success. Fear either paralyzes you or motivates you. And so everything I do is to get people to understand taking action, surround yourself with the right people, right? And have confidence in yourself.
So today's guest is a female entrepreneur. You know, I love us females. And she has written one of the best-selling books about all time. And if you've been listening to me, you know how passionate I am about women and their relationship to money. So before I share any more information, let me hand it over to the expert, Sharon Lechter, who is co-author of the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. See, I told you that I knew you would know her work. So, Sharon, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with you.
I am so excited to have you here. So, I would imagine that you might be sick and tired of being introduced the way I introduced you. So, tell me about the other pivotal aspects of your work that maybe doesn't come to mind right away for people.
Well, thank you very much. I am dedicated and have been since December of 1992 to financial education, financial literacy, and helping people elevate themselves to positions of greatest potential and really to become masters of their money. And when it comes to money, you're either in control of your money or it's in control of you. The whole Rich Dad series was incredible, building the largest personal finance brand, but that was just one piece of what I've done and what I work and strive for. So I'm dedicated to everybody watching and listening to this right now, because if I know something that can support you, I want to share it so that you can put yourself in the position of greatest and highest potential.
Okay, so what turned you on to money and financial literacy? I know, my second book was titled Money Can Buy You Happiness, Secrets Women Need to Know to Get Paid What They're Worth. And I've been very passionate about women and their relationship to money because, as you know, Sharon, I've never met a man that thinks they're overpaid, and we know many that are. And so many women, even today, in spite of how far we've come, have such a difficult time asking for a raise, getting paid what they're worth. If they're entrepreneurs, charging what they should charge. To me, as a relationship expert, as a clinical psychologist, I'm a little bit like, a hammer to a hammer, everything is a nail. To a psychologist, everything is psychology. But tell me how you got into this area of expertise. 1992, that's a long time.
Yeah, well, I actually grew up in a very entrepreneurial home. Neither one of my parents even had high school diplomas, but they were very successful later. They started at that time. I lived in a little tiny house between my mom's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot. And we owned rental properties. I had to go scrub out bathrooms between tenants at the age of 10.
Yeah, where was this? Was this where you living?
Orlando. This was in Florida.
Oh, Florida. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Orlando area. Disney didn't open until I graduated from high school. So it was a very different small town then.
So you just dated yourself.
Oh, yeah. I was the grand marshal of the grand opening of Disney World the year I graduated from high school. So yeah.
How did you get that? How did
I definitely dated myself. Yeah, it's been.
Well, wait, Sharon. How were you picked for that? That's incredible.
Well, it's a lot more glamorous than it was. Not nearly as glamorous as it sounds, but there were 6 high schools in the area, and each of us had one person that was chosen to represent as grand marshals and representatives for the grand opening at Disney World in December of 71. Get my years right, 1971. And I was lucky enough to represent my school. So
That's incredible.
it was fun. I wish I had more. I didn't take any pictures back then. Of course, didn't have cell phones. So, but
Right.
it was a fun. And I now people always say, "Tell us something about you that nobody knows." So that's my standard. But anyway, so we talked at the dinner table.
Wait a minute, Sharon, wait a minute. My listeners have to know something about you that most other people don't know. So you have to give us a different answer now.
Okay. I'll figure out what that is. Because I'm pretty much an open book, but that's the one thing that most people don't know about me. And it's something that I'm very proud of. I'm also very much a private person. You wouldn't, as much as my life is out in the open and I'm out there, I definitely love my quiet time and my alone time. So it's I cherish it. I'm what you would call an extroverted introvert, if you think about it. Meaning that I am out there doing what I'm supposed to, but I also love time alone with my husband, time with my family, and I don't live my life on Facebook. I like my quiet time. So
I've actually many people that are out there on stage, if you will. When you get to know them, they will tell you that they really are an introvert. But in order for them to fulfill their life's purpose, they have to be out there. But it doesn't come easy. So it's pretty exhausting for an introvert to have to be out there. So how do you manage that?
Well, it is very draining. Bob Proctor was the same way. You would never know that, but he was very introverted.
Mm-hmm. He just passed away recently, right? That was so sad.
Yes.
What was your relationship to Bob? With Bob, what was your relationship with Bob?
We were friends for a long time. I met him back in 1998, 97, somewhere on there. Wonderful man. Miss him. He was a huge contribution of work to the people that followed him. But it's really an interesting concept when you think about the people that live large and every moment of their life is on Facebook, and then those people that are more private, and to each their own. Luckily, we can each make those choices and choose the path we want to. But as you're back to your original question, I grew up at the dinner table hearing my parents talk about assets, money, appreciation, cash flow. And I just didn't realize that I had a very unique upbringing. I ended up getting into accounting. I was the only girl in my classes. I was one of the very first women in public accounting back in...
Which firm did you work? Back then it was the Big Eight, right?
It was the Big Eight, Coopers and Lybrand, Atlanta. I was young, single, in hot Atlanta, and an upwardly mobile career. I thought I was hot stuff. And then...
today, I think there's more women graduating with accounting degrees than men.
Yes, I believe
that's incredible.
But at that time, I was the only one in my classes. So I definitely was a trailblazer. But about the ripe old age of 25, I realized that I was not in control of my life. They were.
Not in an accounting firm, especially back then.
Yeah. But I had such an incredible education going into companies and seeing how they succeeded, but probably even more importantly, seeing how companies failed. Mm-hmm. And at 25,
what aspect of accounting did you do? Did you do auditing? Did you audit tax? What did you do where you would have that insight? Because depending upon your specialty within accounting, you would not have seen that.
I did both audit and tax, and
back then you did both.
I became a bridge between the audit and tax departments.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I was manager, supervisor on a lot of the audits, so I got to see the whole picture, and it was an incredible training and something that I highly recommend people that want to get have that accounting side. go into public accounting because you learn a tremendous amount. And I was able to take that into my own entrepreneurial endeavors because at 25, I got asked by a client to help him with a client he was buying out of bankruptcy. So I went back to my condo and I did the old pros and cons on a yellow legal pad because this was before PCs and before cell phones. And it didn't help me a bit. I could argue both sides. My hand took off and wrote across the top of the page, why not? Why not do something different? Why not solve a problem? Why not serve a need? Why not take that path less traveled? And
so hang on a second. So does that speak to Sharon, the risk taker?
Yeah, it wasn't until in my 30s, I took an assessment exam that was created by a friend of mine, Kathy Colby, the Colby Index.
The Colbys, of course.
Yeah. And it was such a gift to me because for so many years, I had this war. I had the innovator, the natural, cognitive skill I had, innovator, risk taker, with my cognitive trained brain as an accountant, risk averse. And so those two sides were always at odds. And it was when I took the Colby, it finally gave me some peace to understand how that came about. So when I had my natural entrepreneur and my learned accountant that were constantly going at each other. But it was...
Hang on, Sharon. It sounds to me like you took that was from one of your parents. Who was the risk taker?
Neither one of them were really risk takers. My father, if either of them was, it would be my dad. He always saw the value of buying, building, creating assets. So he understood that, to create financial freedom was through income producing assets. From an early age, he started buying coupon bonds. So if something happened to him, my mom would have cash flow every single month.
Wow.
And then into rental properties. And then we owned an orange grove that's now part of SeaWorld. So, he was always a very forward thinker, but neither one of them were real risk takers.
Okay.
That came 100% somehow from this brain. So, and
okay.
I actually don't consider myself a big risk taker. The why not is one, being able to do something different isn't risky, it's experience. When you do something that has a high level probability of failure, that's probably being a risk taker. But I think, I always challenge people, when was the last time you did something for the first time? Mm-hmm. And life is all about curiosity and experiences. I talk about the power of association, and the power of association can only grow if you do new things with new people.
So tell us about define the power of association.
Well, the power of association, I have a personal success equation. Go to personalsuccessequation.com and you can download an explanation and a worksheet for you, kind of an ebook. And the power of association
personalsuccess.com.
Yeah,
so when everybody can.
Personalsuccessequation.com.
Got it.
And it was released in my first book with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, 3 Feet from Gold, which was released in 2008. And it talks about really how the elements of success, and I use it in all my interviews and with all my clients. It starts with P plus T. That's passion plus talent. And that's all about you. Now, passion, love what you do what you love. Or for me, my passion was anger that we weren't teaching kids about money in school. And that's as strong today as it was back in December of 1992. And then times A, power of association. And that is who's on your team. Do you have a mentor who's opening doors for you? Do you have people on your team who are strong where you are weak? So the power of association. Do you have relationships with other people in the industry so that you can expand your message and exponentially increase your impact through other people's money, time, and resources? Power of association is everything. It really is 100, a lot of it attributes to my success throughout my career and all my various endeavors. And then times A, taking action. How many times do we know what we're supposed to do? We just don't do it. So taking action. And you can immediately think of yourself as when you took action, you felt more stronger, your self-confidence went up. And then there are times when we just procrastinate and choose not to do something we know we need to. And then plus F, faith. Faith in yourself, faith in what you're doing, faith that it's needed and necessary, and faith that you will succeed. That's where that self-confidence comes from. And so that's P plus T times A plus faith. And most of us, that F is fear, not faith. And that fear holds us back from creating success. Fear either paralyzes you or motivates you. And so everything I do is to get people to understand taking action, surround yourself with the right people, right? And have confidence in yourself. And when I get a new client, I go through that. And it's usually the power of association that needs to have some work and their self-confidence because they've had success in their business and it's plateaued. And that's because they've stopped meeting new people. They've stopped expanding their network. So let's expand your association because when you have the right people around you, we all have a bad day. But when you have a bad day, they're there to lift you back up. And so they go hand in hand.
Well, we now know that having a support system of people increases your chances of doing things and succeeding. But I want to go back to what you said earlier, to the formula. So who was the mentor, which really meant the sponsors that opened the doors for you?
My mentors? Well, certainly.
Yeah, you said everybody needs a mentor to open doors, 1,000%. So who was yours?
Well, I've had probably 30 different mentors in my life.
Most influential.
I think the most influential one was my father. Growing up, letting me know at that time that I could do anything I wanted to. I never saw.
But I don't think he was someone, he gave you the faith. Did he open up the doors? Did he have the connections to open up the doors?
Well, he made me believe in myself. And that above all else is still a huge part of me. He would ask me every night, Sharon, have you had value to someone's life today? So it has been my guiding light my entire life. He's been gone 17 years, but I still ask myself that every night.
I would imagine you do. And is the answer usually what?
My goal every single morning is that I can answer that question yes at night when I go to bed. Have I added value to someone's life?
Gosh, wouldn't that be great if other people asked themselves that question every night and could answer it yes?
Wouldn't it be a different world if everybody made an effort to do that instead of taking from the world? Yes, absolutely. And then the managing partner in my CPA firm was hugely supportive of what I would do. And that was at my younger age. And then as I continued, I had incredible mentors that were within the publishing arena with intellectual property. My husband is a huge mentor of mine. When we met, he was the brightest man I'd ever met, and I still feel that way. I respect him even more than I love him. We've been together for 43 years. So we work very closely together, and we are so different. He's the yin and I'm the yang, but together we make a pretty
meaning who's who? Like my husband and I are different too. Like I'm a huge big picture person. He is absolutely detailed. He'll say, I'll come up with an idea for anything. And he'll say, and how do you think we're going to get that done? I'm like, I have no clue, but you're a smart guy. You married me. I'm sure you'll figure it out. And that's really been our marriage. So which role are you?
Well, we're very similar. I am a big picture person and I am the driver. I am proactive. He's much more reactive. He's an attorney and an engineer. That tells you.
Wow.
He's an electrical engineer and an attorney. He is a very well-known intellectual property attorney, and he is just absolutely brilliant. He sees, one of his taglines is suspend disbelief, be open to the possibilities. But he also makes sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. And I'm like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. So together we can have a lot of fun, and we can also have great arguments because I just, his reaction and wanting to get things papered sometimes frustrates me, but I tend to have the shiny object syndrome issue. And that's why I have people on my team that are grounded, and they are the ones, I'll come in and say, oh, I got a phone call. Let's think about doing this. And I go, Sharon, does that change the priorities we set yesterday? So That's, again, the power of association, making sure they have the right people on your team.
Well, it doesn't change the priorities, but it sure as heck might get sexier.
Well, sometimes it does change the priorities, depending on what the call is and what the opportunity is. But usually I'm just, a little bit flighty when it comes to thinking of new things. When something makes me mad, I tend to start a new company and, try and address it crazy like that.
That's your motivator?
Usually, yeah, the successful businesses do one of two things. They solve a problem or serve a need.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tend to recognize problems and needs, which creates gaps in industries. And that is the passion that I have, is to helping people fill those gaps and create the problems and solutions that people need.
Interesting. So to go back to you, so you're an accountant, right? You're working for one of the big eight. One of your clients asked you to come with him. Very standard, happens all the time. So where did your journey go from there, where you went out on your own?
Well, I owned a piece of the company and I went with them, but within a few short weeks, I found all kinds of corruption because the company had been in bankruptcy. Short weeks. Yes. So I was like, just so paranoid. I have my newly minted CPA. I'm at risk now. And so I went away for a couple of days to figure out what was next, what I was going to do about it. So it was really the worst business mistake I've ever made, still to this day.
Why?
I came back and had made the decision I needed to leave the company. I couldn't stay there. Did not know what was next.
Well, hang on. Why do you say that was a mistake? I mean, I understand the quandary of, wow, this stuff is illegal. What do I do? Why do you say that was a mistake to leave?
Well, because I left a very upwardly mobile, successful career to go to this position that was a disaster, and it really put my license at risk.
Oh, the mistake was to leave the accounting firm and go with the other Oh, okay, I misunderstood. Because today, it's interesting you say that, because I know of several people, and accountants, so many times the ones that are doing the due diligence that finds this is not cool, and you're stuck with the quandary. Do you report it as you should, or do you be complicit in your silence? I mean, that's a real moral dilemma. So how did you struggle with that? And you're young, right? Nobody thinks the whistle. It's rare that we think the whistleblower, in spite of even today.
Yeah. So when I came back from making the decision that I had to leave, there was a young man in my office looking through my drawers. So I would say I met my husband. He was a lawyer. And when a company's in bankruptcy, they are in a lot of litigation. So he was there on discovery on a lawsuit and had waited for me to come back. And so we literally met when he was going through my drawers. It was love at first sight. Our handshake was electric. And that was 43 and a half years ago.
Wait, Sharon, hang on a second. You walk into your office and there's this strange man going through your drawers in your office, and you can see past that to the person?
Yeah.
Most people would have been like, what are you doing going through my stuff?
Well, I knew he was in there. I mean, they had told me he was there. It was part of the process. They had waited for me to come back from being gone. And there were several different attorneys there representing several different clients. And Mike was the one selected to do the discovery through my office. So I knew it was happening. And so I went in and introduced myself, and it was electric handshake and love at first sight. And we've been together ever since. So Napoleon Hill
this. Were you allowed to date?
Well, I'll get there.
Okay.
Napoleon Hill said, out of every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. So my worst business decision gave me my best life decision. But of course, we were on opposite sides of a lawsuit. So I went down to DC, where I was in New Hampshire at the time, and he lived in DC, and that was where Virginia was, where the case was. So I came down literally a couple of weeks after we met, and we went out for our technically first date. And that was when I I'd already told the company that I was leaving. So even though we're on opposite sides of the courtroom, we weren't because I had already turned in my resignation.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and been together ever since. So it was like there was a message from the big guy upstairs that I had during that time decided, okay, I'm single. I'm probably going to be an old maid at 25, right? It's okay, God, I'm going to take care of myself. I can figure this out, but I got to get out of this situation. And as soon as I kind of released it, I met my husband. So
now I think I'm going to challenge you. I don't think that was the greatest mistake of your life, leaving that firm. I think it was the best mistake. I mean, I think it was the best thing you did. If you wouldn't have met your husband otherwise.
Right. Well, I don't say it was the worst life decision. It was not a good business decision.
Okay.
Based on what I found. I did not do my due diligence. And so it was a bad business mistake, but it gave me my best life decision. So,
and if you had to do it all over again, what would you have chosen?
No, I wouldn't change anything. People always ask me, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? And when I'm at an event and there's a panel, I got to go last. Because in fact, I just had that question on an interview twice yesterday. And, my answer is always, I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for my mistakes and my successes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to waste any time thinking about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you what I would tell a 20-year-old today, but not myself 20 years. Because I
didn't ask the question, but go ahead. You can answer that question.
Well, that's my answer. My answer is I would not, I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for my successes and my failures. And so I challenge people, we are all where we are today because of the choices we made before today. And if we want something different, want something better, want something more, start making different decisions today and go forward.
What do you think, Sharon? That's so true. And other people have told me they wouldn't change anything from the past because it absolutely made them who they are today. What do you think people would prefer to erase those challenges and those obstacles?
Well, I think there mistakes, adversity, people use that as a definition. They label themselves a failure. They label themselves a mistake. And that's what I teach everyone I talk about. A mistake or an adversity, a failure is an occurrence. It's not a definition. Mm-hmm. And so learn from it. I mean, the road to success is not a straight line. It's got its ups and downs along the way.
Twists and turns.
Yes. And you need to learn from them and know that, and I use the analogy of you're the CEO of your own life and you're driving your vehicle. You are in the driver's seat and you've got a huge windshield. You can go anywhere you want. And your rearview mirror is very small because you're supposed to learn from the past, not hold on to it.
Right.
And realize that your job is to move forward and accelerate your contribution.
Sure. Well, I tell people sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, right? But I do think today, though, I don't know how you'll feel about this, if you even want to go here, but I believe a lot of the issues that we're having in the States and probably in the world is that we're in the midst of epic parenting failure. And what I mean by that is parents no longer helicopter and pick their kids up when they fail. They snowplow. They go ahead of them to avoid all the obstacles so that it's smooth sailing. And so children don't get that incredibly important opportunity to fail and learn from the failure and grow from that until, for many children, the first failure shows up. And I'm going to tie this to money and debt. The first failure shows up when your little genius doesn't make whatever genius school you think is the be all and end all. And it is a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe for the child. By their definition, it's a catastrophe for the parents. And then it just snowballs from there, right? Because nobody's been given the opportunity to learn from failure. It's a gift. How do you see that in your role and mistakes that people, families, children make with money? I personally, I'm not going to get political, But if you take out a loan, it's not my responsibility. If I buy a house and I can't afford it, oh, well, should have thought twice. So what do you think about all of what I just said? And feel free to totally disagree with me.
Well, I just look at it slightly different. As a parent, you need to be a mentor, not an enabler. And I use the analogy of you go to the science fair when your kid's in fourth grade or fifth grade, and you immediately know which projects the parents did, right?
1,000%.
And I say, you think you're being a great mom, a great dad, you're helping your kid get an A on their science project. But what's happening in your kid's brain is, Mom didn't think I could do it on my own. And so the next year they go, why even try? Mom's going to do it. And so you disable your children. All right. People use the word enable. You're enabling them to not strive for success. So you're disabling them. And what you need to do is change shoes and become a mentor and be there to guide them. But, education is from the root word educati, which is to draw out. Your kids are brilliant. Allow them to shine. Allow them to show. Not every child is an academic superstar, but they're going to be a superstar in some other aspect of life. And the world we live in, where everybody gets a trophy, and we put our kids in bubbles. Right? You talk about the snowplow. I think our parents today are putting their kids in bubbles, not allowing them to fail. And so they need to learn how to recover when they're still close to the ground. Let them fall and get back up, just like riding a bike. And I actually have a board game called Thrive Time for Teens, which allows them to experience those mistakes in a fun, safe environment. It's got a lot of humor in it. And our kids have to learn that the choices they make with their money and with how they spend their time either drive them to success or not. And so teaching them in a safe environment on a board game where they choose a card and they drop their cell phone in the toilet, they got to pay for it. Or my most favorite is they go to a party at a friend's house, parents are at home, cops come, they get a ticket. Well, guess what? Probably underage drinking. But again, those things happen in real life. And them seeing that consequence in a safe environment helps them realize the decisions they're making in real life need to be a little better.
That's great. Do you feel that, I love that board game, the card game. Tell me how your role and what you offer in terms of educating with financial literacy has changed, how it has evolved. We actually still got stuck. You're still working for the corrupt guy that you left. You met your husband. And then where did you go? And then you can talk about the financial literacy.
Well, we had children and they didn't like to read. So I met the inventor of the first talking children's book. And
you have it there?
Yep. If you remember these, all right.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
We started that and built that around the world. But at the time, kids did not have electronics. And so we said, how can we get them to trust us? So we did deals with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel Comics, and allowed us to explode it around the world. And children started reading again. All right. And it was really exciting.
At that time, so Sharon, when your children didn't want to read, was that the norm for some reason going on?
All their friends were the same way.
What was going on? What was that about from a societal perspective? Do you know?
I think TV? Sesame Street. I think TV. At that time, it was TV. It wasn't computers, it was TV. And so kids would rather watch TV than read. And so we wanted to get them excited about reading again. And we were able to go around the world with that. And it was very, very wonderful. We started our first year, we thought we were hot stuff with $1 million in sales. Then we went to 9, 23. And the fourth year we sold the business and we were on our track for 52 million in sales that year.
Wow.
So, and it really started a whole dynamic of embedded reading, combining, multi-faceted reading, listening.
Like the bunny kind of thing, tactile. Yeah.
So I was real proud of that. And then we sold the company, and that was the year 1991. Mike and I, with our family, moved here to Arizona, and had another company that was same thing, reading but touching the page to trigger sounds. That company didn't do so well, so that was not one of my greatest successes. But then in 92,
But you learned a lot.
I learned a lot. Yeah, absolutely. I learned that you have to demand quality, right? And you have to be very careful about the quality of the people you hang out with. But my son went to college in September of 1992, my oldest son, and he came home in December with credit card debt. We didn't even know he had a credit card. He'd gotten to college, and there was
Well, they give it to them, right? They sign the kids up. That's right.
He got there and there was a table, free pizza, free money, free t-shirt, free money. So he had a really good time his first semester in college, and then came home in December asking us to bail him out. And we said no. He had to really get a job and pay off his debt and repair.
But hang on a second, Sharon, you didn't even know. So what was the shock like? I mean, I can imagine as a parent, you have how much in debt? How did you get this? Who gave that to you?
I was livid, absolutely livid. But I was also mad at myself because I taught him the things that I learned from my parents, and apparently it didn't work. But he was $2,500 in credit card debt, and he had spent the $2,500 in savings that was there to keep his checking account from having fees. So he, like I said, he had a really good time his first semester in college. But that was December of 1992. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy, financial education, entrepreneurship.
You felt that strongly. You felt that.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I feel as strongly about it today as I did in December of 92. And that has been my definite purpose. That has been my burning desire. And it still is. I still continue today. I have a meeting with the Board of Education next month here in Arizona. We are continuing to strive to get financial education in the schools. Mm-hmm. And that was 92. So you fast forward a few years. And in 1996, my husband called me one day and said, this guy came in my office today in flip-flops and Bermuda shorts with an idea for a board game. And it was Robert Kiyosaki. And I met him at the first beta test of the board game Cash Flow, where he had the idea drawn out in pencil and crayons, and the different playing pieces were different caliber bullets. Great first impression. But I was the only one that got
different time then. It was a different time.
Yes. So I got, my husband and I have a ranch, so I have no problem with guns. It was just an interesting dynamic at the time.
Sure.
But I was the only one that got out of the rat race, but I loved it. It was so consistent.
Well, Robert Kiyosaki, he actually went to the same college as my husband, so he had a military background. So the bullets were just bullets. So yeah.
And so I volunteered to help him commercialize the game because of my experience and my knowledge and my connections in the industry with the Talking Children's book. And he told me he was going to charge $200 for this board game. And we're talking 1996, pretty pricey. Yes. And I said, well, if we're going to charge that much, you probably should write a brochure that shares what the concept behind it is. And that's when he asked me to be his partner. We became partners in 1997 and wrote the brochure it was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most people don't understand that we never expected that to have a life of its own. It was literally written to sell the board game.
But you conceived of it.
Yeah, yes. And so we came together we became partners in the company. And for 10 years, we wrote 15 books together. We never expected to do that. We thought we were writing one book. And then we said, well, maybe we should write a trilogy. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. Done. Trilogy. Oh, no. Okay. So 15 books into it. And then I launched a whole nother series called Rich Dad Advisors, where we had experts in specific content areas share information about their area of expertise. Mm-hmm. And we ended up in over 110 countries, over 50 languages. We were on the New York Times bestseller list for over 7 years. 5 of our titles that we wrote together hit the New York Times bestseller list. So, I mean, it truly was an incredible success. And this was before Amazon. before the internet. So this was truly word, mouth to mouth, viral marketing, people recommending it to their friends and family. So I was really honored to have helped build that. But that was 1997 and 2007. We were at the height of our success, making millions of dollars a month, but I was miserable. He wanted to go into franchising. I did not believe in the model. And I had to make the decision to just say, I can't do this. So I made the decision to leave the organization in 2007. It was friendly for about a month until the valuation of the company came in. And then we ended up in litigation for a year. And it was a very difficult time.
Well, hang on one second, though. So, and this, I'm sure, is my ignorance. When the valuation of the company came in, you went into litigation. Is it because it was worth so much more than you thought, so you were entitled to more? Like
it was worth a lot more than he thought. And
is that an honest mistake? I would imagine. Like
shouldn't. Well, I mean that's. We had a very different set of opinion as to. He felt that I should walk away with nothing at the time.
Oh, well, that's a different conversation.
And it was, and he settled a year later. He came to, and 11 years later, he wrote me a letter of apology. So you never know what's going to happen. But during that period, I was high stress for me.
I would imagine the term they use today is you were his business wife, he was your business husband, right? I mean, if you guys,
yes, definitely. Right? We were like brother. We were like brother and sister. Right?
Yeah, it's a very close relationship.
It was very devastating that he did what he did, but irrespective of that,
he might have just gotten caught up in the moment, which could happen to anyone, right?
Well, it's all ego. He would call me and just tell me how much he appreciated me and loved me, that I made his dreams come true. He basically kissed the ground I walked on. And the next time he'd call me, he'd be yelling at me. So, I mean, it just is one of those things. It was not a healthy environment for me. And, but it was a very stressful time, but that's when I got the phone call from President Bush. And he asked me to be on the very first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. And I served both President Bush and Obama. But I wouldn't have had that call had I still been a rich dad. And then a few months later, I got another call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And this was in 2008 when the economy was upside down. And they wanted to reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill. And they had found out that I knew them for years. Don Green and I were friends. And he asked me to step in and help reinvigorate the teachings. And so that's when I wrote 3 Feet from Gold, and then Outwitting the Devil, then Think and Grow for Women, Success is Something Greater. But I wouldn't have that phone call either. So I'd always tell people, sometimes you have to close a door for other doors of opportunity to open. And so when I left, I never looked back. I never regretted it because it was not a healthy thing. But, I made that decision not knowing what the future held. I thought that Rich Dad was my legacy. And somebody upstairs said, no, that was just a stepping stone. There's so much more for you to do.
You only just begun. You'd only just begun.
And so when I was on the President's Advisory Council, we passed the Credit Card Act bill of 2009, and it prohibits credit card companies from soliciting kids on college campus. So I came full circle. I can't take credit for the bill, but I can take credit for being a very squeaky wheel. So your kids today, since about 2010, 11, do not get solicited on campus, and they have to show they can repay it or have a cosigner. And
thank you for that, Sharon. But why do you think there is still a lot of egregious stuff credit card companies can do?
The day you turn 18, you get tons of credit card solicitations in the mail. And so
people don't understand the concept of you have to pay it back, 18% interest.
They think it's free money. That's right.
Right. So it's not
the credit card that's at fault. It's the person holding the credit card.
Of course.
And that's because they're not getting educated about it in school. And so it is predatory, definitely. But as parents, as concerned adults, as school people, we need to get the education. We're teaching our kids about condoms in school, but we're not teaching them about money.
And to your point, and I agree with you 1,000%, we don't teach them about money. We also don't take a class on emotional intelligence. And if you want to be successful, you have to have emotional intelligence. And with success usually comes money. Easy come, easy go. If you think about all the, professional athletes and famous people that have so much money, and you turn around how many years later.
They've never educated themselves on how to keep it, how to invest it, how to have it grow. So
where are you now in your passion? Because you are a woman that truly has and is changing the world. So you need to live for about 300,000 years. So what are you working on now?
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I am the chairman of the K through 12 Financial Literacy Commission for the state of Arizona. So I am still fighting the fight to get financial education. I got a law passed here in 2012 that requires personal finance to be taken for high school graduation, but it's within an economics credit. So what we're trying to do is still go back to the well to get a full semester class in personal finance. There are 8 states in the country that require that. There are several more, like 7 more that were it's in process, and I want to make sure Arizona gets that as well.
What's the resistance? What could possibly be the resistance to this?
So you said you didn't want to get political. So my answer to that is a very
I won't,
response.
But you can.
It's the unions, the teacher union.
Oh, of course. It's all about the unions. Of course. Okay. Do you know Lee Benson?
And we, of course, I know Lee Benson. Yes.
Very good. I was gonna wait till we were off the air, but the hell with it.
Yeah.
Very good friend of mine. Love what he's doing. Love what he's. I was going to say you should meet him, but of course you know him. Okay.
Yeah, I've known him for many, many years, and he actually was a donor to a statewide financial literacy initiative I did, over 10 years ago.
He's a wonderful man. Wonderful.
I was just at his home a couple of weeks ago listening.
Me too.
Learning about his new initiative.
His new book. Yeah. Okay, so the resistance is that's not the way we do it here. And the union, well, it feels as if no educational decision is made for education anymore. That's
right. I had Democratic senators telling me they were going to vote for my initiative in committee. Mm-hmm. And then when we got to the floor, they changed their vote and admitted that they changed it because of pressure from the union. So, I mean, it's so disheartening.
It's so sad.
Are we supposed to be here for the unions, or are we supposed to be here for the kids?
Children.
It's really a sad statement when that's the case. Particularly since
can't we do
teachers, the teachers want it, but they're so beholden to
so why do the unions not want to embrace it? What threat could this curriculum possibly be to the union? I understand other things that the unions don't want, but what could possibly be the threat to this?
It means it's
too complicated. Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot.
It is unconscionable, so I can't even answer that question.
Okay, I don't mean
too much work, too much, things to change. They resist any change. So,
something tells me, Sharon. Something tells me you have the curriculum already made, and it would be here you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, wait. I want to be respectful of your time, although, well, not really. I want to talk to you forever, but I will be respectful of your time. But before we go, what is the last book you reread and why?
Reread The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall. It is, I believe, can change the world. A lot of personal financial planners use it. It is a parable, but it talks about exactly what you and I have been talking about getting kids out of the enabled, spoiled, mindset into one of gratitude, one of contribution, and one of self-responsibility. And so I think it's it's a very short read. I think it's an incredible book. So,
okay, great. So where unabashedly promote yourself, where would you like people to go to learn more about you, to work with you, to access your information? Go. unabashedly.
Well, I invite all of you to reach out to me. My email is info@SharonLechter.com. Would love to hear from you. Visit my website, SharonLechter.com. I'm Sharon Lechter on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Please follow me and know that we are absolutely here to support you every step of the way. I have the personalsuccessequation.com if you want to get that information. And also, when COVID started, I was tired of all the negativity. I started a program, daily motivational topics, and I'm on my 1400th one, and I do it every single morning. If you go to atm.sharonlechter.com, you can find out more about that. It's very inexpensive. It just covers the cost of my team handling it, $8 a month, I think it is. So every single day, 7 days a week, I talk about. It's an ATM deposit. So abundance, tips, and mentorship. So it's a play on the bank ATM. This is an ATM for your brain, and to start your day with positivity, which helps shield you from the negative, because your mind cannot hold positive and negative at the same time. So I invite you to go to atm.sharonlechter.com and change your mind within the beginning of the day so you stay positive.
Great. And I just want to make sure that you have the spelling right. Sharon, and Lechter is Lechter. Sharon, thank you so much. Thank you for being you. Thank you for leaving that Big 8 firm. Thank you for leaving that job. Thank you for meeting Michael. Thank you for all the wonderful gifts that you bring to the world. The world truly needs more people like you, Sharon. And I mean that sincerely. And I encourage everybody to please take a page from this lady's book. Nothing but goodness will come to you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you.